I was acting pretty loony, and I have to apologize to the quality of the video. It went really long, I was rambling a lot, and then when I turned the phone, I expected the camera angle to go to follow how I turned it, and I ended up being sideways for 20 minutes, and I apologize. But hey, I got my camera to work. I got my setup so it won't be done on iPhone anymore. Cool. So, I want to talk to you. Wow. I want to talk to you about what I know. I don't know a lot, but I know a lot of things that a lot of people don't seem to realize, or don't care to, or don't acknowledge, what have you. Have you ever noticed that people who are very agitated, depressed, or very angry smoke cigarettes? And we have this giant campaign that, cigarettes kill, which they do. They give you cancer and fill you with tar and nicotine. But they serve a purpose, I believe. If you give an agitated, stressed out, angry person a cigarette, if you offer them a cigarette, 9 times out of 10 they will take it and calm down and probably love you forever. Something about the smoke inhalation mixed with the stimulant of nicotine causes you to, balance yourself out if you're imbalanced. This leads to just mental illness as a whole. Like, we don't talk about it as a society. It's brushed under the rug. We don't want to accept that a lot of us are mentally ill, and we don't even think we're mentally ill. And the idea of calling it mentally ill is really a derogatory type of understanding, when really we're just mentally unbalanced. We are grown in a society that is not conducive to how we naturally are as humans. And whatever bias you have with that, whatever you think humans naturally are, you gotta take that out of this aspect. You grow up and you have to go to these factory schools for 10 to 12 years to earn a degree, put yourself couple $100,000 in debt, generally, to work for 40 or 50 years to survive, when man used to be able to go out and hunt and fish, and if he lived, determined on how productive he was that day. We've also had our spiritual center cut off. We don't feel connected to any sense of the spirit. That's not to be confused with religion, because I fear a lot of mainstream religions have taken the whole spirituality aspect out of their religion. They've become more about commanding the masses than they have actually guiding you towards the divine. I believe God is the universe. Like, we were created in its image. It cannot be perceived or drawn because it is vast and unknown. Like, we live inside the universe. It is our God. It created us. I don't want to hear any arguments about what you think or what you believe, because bottom line is, we come from stardust. We come from the universe, and whatever God you subscribe to is also inside of that universe. Should have turned that off. So, magic is real. It's just our perception of what it is very distorted. Science is like magic. Like, we put a fucking man up in space and on the moon. Like, that's unheard of. That's inhuman. We did it, though. We just took notes about it and called it science. We are able to bring people back from the brink of death. We're able to make people happen with in vitro fertilization. I would call that magic. I think that the recent explosion in practice of the old ways, of the old faiths, of the old magics is it's us as a collective reawakening to what has been kind of taken away from us over the last couple millennia. The reason that we're told witchcraft and magic is bad and evil is because the people who tell us that want to control us. They want to prevent us from ascertaining what our higher selves are, our higher powers, our higher perceptions, whatnot. Because when we're cut off from that, they can control us. And, you know, we, as the leaders of this organization, of this organized religion, can talk to God directly, but you have to talk to us to understand what God's saying. Yeah, no, that's the biggest fucking, probably a conspiracy theory, but hey, you know what? Just something to think about. What else? There's a lot of things I would like to discuss if I could remember them half the time. I really need to start making scripts. It's February. Valentine's Day is tomorrow. Happy Valentine's Day if you subscribe to that Hallmark bullshit. Have you noticed that holidays don't feel special anymore? They've been commercialized and sold to us as these shallow corpses of what they used to be about. I was just talking to my mom about that today too. Like, hey, it doesn't feel like holidays anymore because there's so much pressure to reach some bullshit standard that no one really set. And it all comes down to spending money and hanging out with people we don't really agree with anymore. I hope everyone's doing fine. A lot of things are happening. A lot of things have been happening on an astral level, on a spiritual level. I've noticed a lot of people are hurting themselves and feeling really depressed, and it could be the winter. Oh god, don't get me started on this winter, man. Like, I feel bad for the Midwest right now. They are just iced. Speaking of, a cool thing to realize is that we are truly in the end times. We just don't seem to really give a fuck. All the biblical stuff that has been reported on, like how the Armageddon will come, how the end of the world will happen, we're so disillusioned to it. It's ridiculous because we literally have these natural disasters destroying mass populations of people. We have this epidemic of an opiate crisis that's killing more people than opiates are actually saving, you know? We have wars happening everywhere, and they're not like large-scale wars. They're skirmishes. They're fights between black protesters and police, or hippies against construction workers. All these little clashes of people just battling each other out. It's insane that no one else seems to be putting it together, that we are truly in the end times. And I believe it started in 2012. I believe that the Mayan calendar was just the set off of this point in time. And every other culture that has an apocalypse setting, they are going off one by one. We're currently in between Ragnarok of the Viking lore and the War of Armageddon in Judeo-Christian. We are experiencing a lot of these disasters that they were foretelling us. You don't have to subscribe to any specific religion to be spiritual. And it helps to actually not be religious, to take apart these different religions and look at what they represent spiritually. What I mean by this is they're all part of the same truth. And anyone who tells you that they know the truth and any other truth is a lie is a liar. They want to control like any other cult leader. I hopefully will be making more videos in a more consistent setting now. I want questions, guys. I want to know that like the people who are watching these are engaged. I want to know what you want to know. I want to find out too, because we all want to find out the truth in one way or another, right? I know I'm not that dynamic. I know I'm kind of monotone and my stuff is pretty low rent, but hey, we all got to start somewhere. And if you're watching this right now, if you're watching this at all, I'm glad that wherever I end up from this, wherever this goes, that you took the time to listen to me from the beginning. I don't want to convince you of anything. I don't want to, change your worldview. I just want to present my perspective of it, the perspective of an outsider. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here because I want to try to keep these shorter than 20 minutes so you can kind of hold your attention. But I'm glad to have your attention. Have a good night.